In Fire Force Season 3, it covers several arcs: Asakusa Showdown Arc, the Kusakabe History Arc, the Final Pillar Arc, the Battle of Amaterasu Arc, and finally the massive Great Cataclysm Arc, which alone spans over 50 chapters. The remaining arcs are combined into about 31 chapters, but in this discussion, we'll be focusing on the Great Cataclysm Arc, as it represents the major chunk of the season and is packed with the most epic battles, world-shaping events, and emotional moments. So without further ado, let's dive into the Great Cataclysm Arc. So, let's begin. After stealing Vulcan's key, the White-Clad move forward with their plan to unlock Amaterasu and trigger the Great Cataclysm. Infernal outbreaks spread across Tokyo Empire, massive fires erupt everywhere, and the world begins to fall into chaos. Company 8 and the other Fire Force units become humanity's last line of defense as reality itself starts to collapse. Inside Amaterasu, Karen reaches the limit of how much energy he can absorb while protecting Haumea. A long flashback reveals their past. Haumea has suffered since childhood because she constantly hears the collective thoughts and emotions of humanity. Hatred, fear, cruelty, and madness flood her mind, causing her intense pain. Karen devoted himself to protecting her, willingly enduring her violent outbursts because he believed her pain was also his pain. He accepted everything she released onto him as an act of unconditional love. As Haumea grew older, her holiness twisted into madness. She learned to embrace cruelty and despair as a way to survive the endless voices in her head. Karen remained by her side, watching over her even when she slept, knowing that rest never truly came for her. In the present, Karen continues to endure the attacks aimed at Haumea, believing she carried the darkness of humanity so the world could reach this final moment. When Karen finally reaches his limit, he thanks everyone for the energy they gave him and releases it all at once. He explodes in a massive blast, meant as his final gift to the Fire Force. Maki uses her abilities to hold the overwhelming heat energy back, struggling under its immense power. With Hinawa's help, they redirect the attack toward Dragon. The blast devastates the area, but Arthur believes even this attack cannot truly defeat Dragon. Meanwhile, the cataclysm fully begins. A giant eyeball appears in the sky above Amaterasu, terrifying everyone who sees it. Arrow explains that Adola has linked with our world, and the 8 pillars are now absorbing humanity's thoughts. Nearly half the planet is already engulfed in flames. The fires match the ancient scriptures describing the end of the world, causing civilians to panic and believe this is divine punishment. As chaos spreads, Fire Force members focus on evacuating civilians, but new horrors appear. Infernal doppelgangers, exact copies of people, begin attacking, causing fear and confusion. Even trained soldiers freeze when faced with versions of themselves. The flames and despair only continue to grow. Joker observes the burning world and realizes the truth. He explains to Licht and Company 8 that the cataclysm is fueled by humanity's negative emotions: madness, apathy, rage, fear, disgust, destruction, and despair. The Evangelist has been planting these ideas in humanity's mind for centuries, making people subconsciously desire destruction. Human despair itself powers the flames. Lick realizes this is why the White-Clad fear Shinra becoming a hero. If despair fuels the cataclysm, then hope could stop it. Though it sounds impossible, Licht insists and hope may be the only force capable of extinguishing the fire. Captain Obi agrees and orders Company 8 to spread this message to all Fire Force units. Do not lose hope. Then, in outer space, Dragon is seen floating. Initially, he thinks of just drifting across the space, but suddenly remembers that Arthur didn't even flinch while facing him and flees back to Earth. As the world burns and doppelgangers multiply, Company 8 stands firm. They refuse to surrender to despair, believing that even a small spark of hope can change the fate of the world. As the Great Cataclysm continues, the situation across the Empire becomes more desperate. Massive firestorms pull objects into the air, collapsing buildings and forcing Fire Force members to focus on evacuating civilians. Company 2 reunites with Captain Honda, who emerges from the water, and quickly realizes how severe the disaster is. Seeing the giant eyeball in the sky, he believes the Empire may never recover. Other companies share the same fear. Company 6 is overwhelmed with casualties, and firestorms continue to grow, pulling in cars, trees, and debris. Captain Pond wonders if fire soldiers are truly powerless under something of this scale. Suddenly, a broadcast from Company 8 reaches all Fire Force units. Captain Obi speaks calmly, telling them that the Cataclysm is fueled by humanity's despair. Though it sounds impossible, he insists that hope is the only way to stop the flames. He urges every fire soldier to become an example for the people and not lose hope. His words inspire Captain Pan and others, reminding them that their actions can still matter. The seventh pillar, Sister Sumire, mocks this resistance and recalls the first Great Cataclysm 250 years ago. Back then, she was Sumire Suga, a servant of the Evangelist. She explains that intelligent life itself was born from past cataclysms and that humanity's collective unconscious desires extinction. According to her, despair is the natural endpoint of evolution. She believes humans lack true free will and are always controlled by religion, governments, or trends. In modern times, she says people worship the internet and social media, blindly following trends like insects. Because of this, Japan was chosen as the perfect place to begin the cataclysm. Only 2 more cataclysms remain before humanity's extinction.
Back in the present, Fire Force members actively spread hope. Captain Obi saves a mother and child, promising that fire soldiers will protect them. Maki shields elderly civilians from flames and urges them not to lose hope. Lick theorizes that if despair decreases, the flames should weaken, but the fires continue. Joker suggests a darker truth. Only those considered worthless are being consumed, which feeds the cataclysm even more. Licht realizes they are witnessing the cruel structure of their world. Other companies fight back using their abilities. Karim freezes a firestorm using sound-based cooling, while Karin protects civilians with flame shields. Their efforts briefly reassure the public and hope begins to rise. However, new disasters erupt everywhere, and the frozen firestorm suddenly shatters. From the smoke emerges Rekka, dead yet alive as a doppelganger. Karim and Hoyan realize this is not the real Rekka, but a shadow born from despair. Rekka openly admits he serves Adola and believes humanity's despair is sacred. He invites him to embrace despair and help destroy the world. Though he claims their memories still live within him, Hoyan rejects him as a false imitation. Their confrontation shows how doppelgangers weaponize emotional bonds to deepen despair. Then Karim proceeds to fight Rekka. Both exchange blows with Rekka landing a punch. Karen tells them to stop fighting and dismisses this Rekka as fake and asks if the Evangelist used his sense of justice and manipulated him. Rekka explains Sister Sumire took him where he was a kid and has always been on the path of justice, and there's despair everywhere. Meanwhile, the White Clad is watching chaos from above. Elsewhere, Company 4 faces a doppelganger of their former captain, Captain Haig. Captain Pan refuses to accept it, declaring the real Captain Haig would never kill his own soldiers. The doppelganger then proceeds to attack, shattering their defense, grabs a soldier and throws him. Despite fierce fighting, the doppelganger proves extremely powerful. Pan decides to push his own body beyond its limits, determined to defeat this false image himself. Meanwhile, Arthur and Vulcan journey to Company 8's headquarters, which Arthur calls the Shrine of Awakening. Arthur believes a final trial awaits him there to unlock the true power of Excalibur. They go to Arthur's room and, shockingly, this trial turns out to be a video game, Dragon Quest, where Arthur believes defeating the dragon boss will strengthen his resolve. Vulcan is stunned, realizing that the fate of the world may rest on Arthur's bizarre sense of heroism. Vulcan decides to go along with Arthur's fantasy and plays the role of Merlin while helping him clear the game trial. They snack and joke as they play, but Arthur keeps losing to the pseudo-dragon boss despite upgrading his gear. Vulcan suggests using buffs and focusing on the main character's strengths instead of brute force. This advice helps Arthur understand what he's been missing. At the same time, Captain Pan faces the doppelganger of Captain Haig. Using extreme buff stacking, Pan pushes his body beyond its limits. Even after taking brutal axe blows, he overpowers the doppelganger, declaring it a false memory meant only to hurt people. With a devastating final attack, Pan destroys it, proving that resolve can overcome even distorted despair. Arthur and Vulcan succeed in the game using their new strategy, but the story forces them to confront a painful truth. Sometimes the enemy is a former friend. This mirrors the real battle between Karim, Rekka, and Hoyan. Karim refuses to accept Rekka as an enemy, begging him to return to Adola as a shadow. Rekka explains that the hole in his chest represents betrayal and despair born when his friends froze him. He claims his purpose is to create despair and end the world, as chosen by Sister Sumire. As Rekka attacks relentlessly, Hoyan realizes the hole in Rekka's chest reflects Karim's guilt. Karim remembers Rekka's dream of saving humanity and how he once promised to support it. Accepting the pain, Karim finally fights back, turning Rekka's flames into ice. He tells Rekka that even if his dream was twisted, their friendship was real, and that is enough. In a fierce clash of fire and ice, they both exchange blows. Karim slowly freezes Rekka completely. Karin refuses to intervene as he believes this fight would help Karim get hope. Rekka shatters Karim's defense while also increasing his flames, making Karim unable to freeze them in time, but he still does it somehow and proceeds to freeze Rekka completely, while admitting their friendship was real. Rekka admits his guilt and acknowledges their bond. The hole in his chest fills with ice and he shatters, ending the battle. Karim is left devastated, having killed his friend a second time, but Hoyan confirms this was the answer they reached together. Back with Arthur, he feels sorrow after defeating his best friend in the game. Vulcan reassures him that moving forward was necessary. Arthur reaches the final chapter and thanks Vulcan sincerely, calling him not just a teammate, but a good person. This leaves Vulcan to remember Yu, the orphan boy who wanted to become an engineer. Yu lost his parents in a fire and refused to go to an orphanage, instead carrying a handmade doll and dreaming of building things. Vulcan took Yu in as family, along with Lisa, and promised to protect them. He now regrets failing to keep them safe. Arthur comforts Vulcan and promises that with the Excalibur Vulcan built, he will save Yu, Shinra, and everyone. Meanwhile, Company 8 continues evacuations, encouraging civilians to stay hopeful. Though people feel safer, the flames do not fade. Reports confirm that infernals still appear everywhere. Licht realizes that hope alone isn't stopping the cataclysm, reinforcing Joker's idea that most people are being used as fuel by despair. As Sister Sumire mocks the Fire Force's efforts, Arthur reaches the Dragon Lord in the game, but suddenly stops playing. He declares that the trial is complete and that it's time to face the real dragon. Arthur hands Excalibur to Vulcan and tells him to raise it to the sky. Though Vulcan is confused, he does so, remembering that Excalibur was created by himself, Lisa, and Yu together. To his shock, the sword begins to glow and point the way forward. Arthur explains that Excalibur carries their love and knows where Yu is. Vulcan realizes Arthur was serious all along and that this path will lead them to Yu. Vulcan is confused when Excalibur begins guiding them since he never built that feature into the sword. Arthur explains it is teleportation magic and tells Vulcan to hold on. Before Vulcan can stop him, Arthur commands the spirits and they are instantly transported. They arrive in front of Giovanni, who is speaking using Yu's voice. Giovanni reveals he has waited a long time for this moment, jumping between young bodies and surviving, only to witness the end of the world. He demands the Evangelist reveal itself. Lightning flashes behind him and Arthur and Vulcan appear. Giovanni's irritated and asks how they got there, but Vulcan ignores him and demands Yu back. Giovanni calmly explains that he has fully merged with Yu's body by planting a parasite in his brain. Vulcan protests, but Giovanni says it is too late. They are now one. He plans to return Yu only after seeing Adola, which would be after the world is destroyed. Before he can finish, Arthur stabs Excalibur into Giovanni's forehead, declaring that people obsessed with shallow ambitions die without understanding anything. Yu collapses, but Arthur reassures Vulcan he only burned Giovanni inside Yu's brain, like a precise surgical strike. Yu wakes up, recognizing both of them, and Vulcan is overwhelmed with relief. He thanks Arthur deeply, but Arthur proudly accepts the praise, calling himself the Night King. He says Vulcan helped him become who he is, and that he still has one final promise to fulfill. Suddenly, the world begins to shake violently. Arthur understands immediately. The horizon burns red at Tamabe as missiles strike their target. Yet something survives. Dragon appears, mocking the Fire Force.
An undersea volcano erupts, driven by Dragon's overwhelming despair. Arthur explains that Dragon's despair alone is pushing the world toward destruction. Dragon demands to know how long Arthur will make him wait. Arthur says he is coming, then vanishes. Vulcan explains to Yu that Arthur left to fight Dragon. Yu is confused when Vulcan says Arthur prepared by playing a video game, but Vulcan insists Arthur reached max level. Yu doesn't fully understand, but compares it to feeling strong after watching kung fu movies. Vulcan is confident Arthur will win because he wields Excalibur. At Tamabe, Arthur finally confronts Dragon. Arthur apologizes for being late, saying he gains experience, losing friends, seeing allies die, and watching his world burn. He declares himself the Night King and promises to stop Dragon's despair. Dragon doubts him, but Arthur attacks first, with incredible speed, landing powerful lightning slashes that actually injure Dragon. Dragon laughs in excitement, amazed that he can feel pain for the first time. As they continue fighting, Arthur lunges to attack him, but Dragon punches him back. Dragon himself starts flying with wings growing in his back. Arthur initiates Violet Flash and Violet Reverse Flash Plunge, striking Dragon at lightning speed, slashing him and severely injuring him. Dragon's past is revealed. Since ancient times, he has been a walking disaster, destroying lands and spreading despair wherever he went. Despite his power, Dragon has no hope, dreams, or purpose, only endless boredom and despair. Fairy once gave him meaning by inviting him to help trigger the Great Cataclysm. Back in the present, the battle escalates to impossible levels. Arthur and Dragon clash across the sky, ocean, and clouds, splitting the heavens with their attacks. Arthur continues slashing Dragon. Dragon takes him under ocean and he transforms, growing even stronger, and they come out of ocean and Dragon overwhelms him with brutal strikes. Arthur continues to fight back, landing massive slashes and lightning attacks, forcing him back to the ocean. In the ocean, Arthur attacks with a strike so powerful that sends both of them flying outside the ocean. Dragon tries to blast away Arthur, but he dodges and charges a surge of slashes in both land and sky that leaves him brutally wounded. Dragon praises Arthur and transforms into a devilish form and attacks and overwhelms him. They both engage in disaster-level fight, constantly exchanging powerful blows. Arthur lunges to slash Dragon, but he intercepts it midway. He grabs Arthur and drags him into space. As they rise toward the moon, Arthur's father gazes at the night sky, quietly realizing the prophecy he foresaw was about his son. The battle continues on the moon's surface, with Arthur crashing down beneath its massive eye as the fate of the world hangs in the balance. Arthur and Dragon land on the moon, where Dragon declares that no one will interfere with their battle. Arthur is shocked they are in space, a near vacuum, with freezing temperatures where humans cannot survive. Neither of them realize this at first, and they keep fighting. Soon, Arthur begins to suffocate. He drops Excalibur, clutches his throat, and suffers oxygen deprivation. His flames fade, his vision turns white, and he loses consciousness. Dragon coldly remarks that even the Night King is still human and fragile, disappointed that Arthur cannot endure. As Dragon turns away, believing Arthur is finished, Arthur suddenly stands again. He equips the star ring on his finger and understands its true purpose. Thanking Vulcan, Arthur picks up Excalibur. The ring allows him to survive in space and draw strength from the thoughts and imaginations of people on Earth. His Fire Force gear burns away, leaving him transformed and fully connected to Adola. Dragon realizes Arthur has grasped something greater, and the fight resumes. Their clash grows even more violent. Arthur and Dragon exchange massive slashes and explosions across the moon. Dragon overwhelms Arthur with devastating blows, but Arthur refuses to fall, declaring he will make Dragon find hope through strength. Dragon laughs and crushes him again, yet Arthur rises every time. The battle shakes the moon and echoes across space. Back on Earth, the cataclysm spreads. In Asakusa, Benimaru prepares to face his own doppelganger, confident he will win. Doppelgangers appear elsewhere, but Asakusa remains calm because its people imagine strength differently. Meanwhile, Shinra remains trapped within a pillar beneath the giant eye, while Haumea prays before the Evangelist. Vulcan reunites with Company 8 and learns the truth. Arthur's battle with Dragon will decide the fate of the world. Dragon's despair is powerful enough to fuel the cataclysm alone. If Arthur fails, everything ends. In space, Arthur and Dragon crash through stars, clouds, and explosions. They tear into each other with brutal force, both bleeding and near death. Dragon impales Arthur with his claws, while Arthur slices Dragon's body open in return. Arthur's injuries are horrific, holes in his torso, his face slashed, and one eye destroyed, but his resolve never breaks. Dragon claims he has never felt such a sensation before, and Arthur charges again. Dragon hammers a powerful punch, followed by a massive fire burst which Arthur merely dodges. Then Arthur impales Dragon with such force that sends them flying at the moon. He declares he cannot let the world burn because Shinra still has something to protect. He swears to save you, defeat Dragon, and help Shinra awaken. The Night King does not break oaths. Both engage again. Arthur deflects Dragon's attack, which destroys several moons and planets far away. They both receive heavy attacks, making them severely wounded. As the battle reaches its peak, Arthur realizes he needs more than the press of death. He enters a state beyond it, steeled for death, where life, hope, and despair converge. Dragon, who has lived only in despair, finally experiences pain and death. Dragon states Arthur fantasizes about stuff that they don't exist. Everyone calls him fool, but he enjoys all this. He enjoys his life and now even intends to enjoy death, and then ponders whether he is really a fool or winning at life. Arthur says he'll end him, with Dragon excitedly saying to end his long years of despair. Lastly, both prepare to deliver one final strike. Dragon fires a massive laser that tears Arthur apart. Arthur yet unleashes his final attack. Violet Flash, Earth Divider. Arthur's strike cuts through Dragon completely. A blinding white light splits the sky and reaches Earth itself. The flames of the Cataclysm begin to fade as Dragon's despair is cleansed. Dragon admits defeat, thanking Arthur for showing him hope in his final moments before disappearing. Across Earth, the Fire Force realizes Arthur has won. The Cataclysm slows and hope returns. Arthur drifts alone in space, exhausted and broken. He drops Excalibur and says he will leave the rest to the hero. Before we move ahead, let's give a round of applause to our Night King, Arthur. He gave his body, his strength, and his very life force to protect the people of Earth. Fighting through despair, pain, and even the vacuum of space, Arthur never backed down. He truly stood as a knight until the very end. At that moment, Shinra awakens from his pillar, shocking Sister Sumire. As the giant eye trembles and the world calms, people notice the Cataclysm has weakened, proof that Arthur's light has changed everything. Even after Dragon's defeat, Fairy refuses to accept that despair has ended. He cannot believe an incarnation of calamity was defeated by a member of Company 8, nor that Dragon experienced hope. Determined to continue the Cataclysm, Fairy raises his hand to act again. On Earth, Company 8 briefly senses peace. Captain Obi notes the Cataclysm seems paused, but Licht doubts it's truly ended. He believes Dragon's despair weakening slowed the Cataclysm, not ended it. Fairy then reveals his move. He drags the moon closer to Earth. The massive smiling moon fills the sky, causing violent tremors. People panic as Fairy declares this moonfall will tear hope from humanity and remind them of despair. Obi orders everyone to take cover. Hinawa and Maki try to stop the moon's descent, but when Maki looks directly at it, she collapses under its crushing pressure, bleeding from her nose. Elsewhere, Company 2 prepares for the worst. Juggernaut admits he cannot shoot the moon yet, so Captain Honda releases his men, telling them to pray for their loved ones. Suddenly, something rockets toward the moon. To Fairy's shock, Shinra appears and kicks the moon repeatedly, forcing it back into space. Sho appears behind Fairy and calmly announces the bad news: the hero has returned. Fairy grows nervous as Sho points out that Shinra's existence alone restores hope. Fairy insists this is impossible, but Sho says this fear is why the Whiteclads dread Shinra. As long as the savior lives, hope exists, even if physical laws must change. Sho attacks Fairy, attempting to stop time, but Fairy counters by manipulating mass to disrupt time itself. He smugly claims Sho is no longer unique. With effortless speed, Sho stabs Fairy through the body. Even mortally wounded, Fairy smiles. He reveals the Cataclysm Force's true plan: sacrifice themselves to summon doppelgangers of the strongest members of the establishment. Other Whiteclads appear and slit their own throats, summoning shadows of despair. Sho is disturbed as black forms begin to emerge. In Asakusa, Benimaru senses his doppelganger's arrival calmly, confident he will win. Doppelgangers appear elsewhere, but Asakusa remains calm because its people imagine strength differently. Sho reports the situation to Shinra, explaining the Cataclysm Force has summoned new doppelgangers. Shinra urges them to stop it together, but Sho says he must confront Haumea and the Evangelist alone. Only the savior can finish this. Shinra agrees they must protect the world Arthur fought to save. Nataku also returns from Adola, confused but determined. He soon encounters Kurono, who suddenly attacks him.
Nataku realizes this is a doppelganger. The fake Kurono argues that identity is defined by perception, not truth. If he defeats the original, he becomes Kurono in the eyes of the world. Victory erases authenticity. The real Kurono arrives and confronts his double. Their battle exposes the danger of doppelgangers, twisted versions shaped by shallow public perception. The doppelganger unleashes a surge of attacks and overwhelms Kurono. Kurono says there are two things that makes him different. First, being on the path of humanity, and second, he's a wage slave, not a maniac. The imposter mocks Kurono as replaceable, claiming people accept imitations easily.
Kurono rejects this, stating that permission to replace someone must come from the original, and he will never allow it, and prepares to fight him. Kurono continues fighting his doppelganger, who mocks him by saying people see him as nothing more than a violent slasher. The doppelganger claims they are the same except for viewpoint, and attacks with smoke blades. Kurono blocks using a manifested scythe. The smoke turns into massive blades that nearly tear Kurono apart. Though injured, Kurono counters by using the smoke itself as a weapon. The doppelganger says he is stronger because he does not care about rank or responsibility. Kurono challenges this, saying real strength is not abandoning duty, and they trade some more blows. While both are selfish, Kurono explains the difference. He does not fight alone. He asks director Aguro for orders, receives approval, and unleashes a massive attack. By solidifying the smoke and summoning serpent-like flames, Kurono overwhelms and defeats the doppelganger. He declares he will never allow someone to replace him just to steal his position or achievements. Nitaku thanks him for being the real Kurono, and Kurono lightly scolds him, saying only he gets to bully Nitaku. Despite the victory, destruction continues across the city, and Sho realizes doppelgangers are still appearing. The focus shifts to Tamaki and Company 8 as they head out for relief work. Suddenly, a man claiming to be Assault appears. Arrow suspects something is wrong. Tamaki tests him when her lucky Lecher lure triggers, but he shows no reaction. This confirms he is a doppelganger, as the real Assault was always affected by her. The Assault doppelganger attacks Company 8 with overwhelming power. He casually knocks out Hinawa, Maki, Obi, and Arrow with ease, shocking everyone. Juggernaut from Company 2 arrives as backup, sent to protect Tamaki. He refuses to retreat, saying a fire soldier never abandons someone they love. Assault brutally knocks out Hinawa, Maki, and Obi in an instant. Juggernaut joins in, saying he'll never leave Maki, and asks if they manage to save the world, would she go on a date with him? Then Assault doppelganger punches Juggernaut away, mocking love as weakness. Tamaki is left alone to face the doppelganger. Her lucky Lecher lure no longer works, and the crowd begins mocking and shaming her, calling her indecent and useless. The doppelganger declares that sex appeal has no value in the world, and uses public opinion to crush her spirit. Tamaki is badly beaten and humiliated as a criticism grows louder. Licht observes quietly and begins to understand something important. He realizes Tamaki exists to fulfill a role in the world's perception, just like everyone else in the establishment. Her attacks on her are fueled by shallow judgment and mass opinion. At Tamaki's lowest point, the real Assault appears. He openly admits he embraced his lust and weakness. The doppelganger mocks him as corrupted and pathetic. When Tamaki's torn clothes fluster the real Assault, the doppelganger strikes him, proving his point. Still, the real Assault stands as proof that desire and humanity cannot be erased. The crowd continues judging Tamaki harshly, but a fire soldier defends her, saying she is fighting for them. Tamaki's battle is no longer just physical, it's against the world's perception itself, as the Cataclysm pushes humanity to its cruelest extremes. Tamaki finally snaps at the crowd's non-stop criticism and declares she's done listening to their whining. If they hate seeing skin so much, she says, then she will show them the true weight of sex appeal. She removes her fire coat and leggings, leaving only her bra and panties, and boldly stands her ground. This enrages Yoshida, who calls Kamaki vulgar and accuses her of having no shame in front of children. Tamaki shuts Yoshida down, saying she is trying to defeat the fake Assault and doesn't need commentary from someone who's not fighting. Yoshida turns to Licht, demanding he say something. Yoshida argues it's unfair that people blessed with beauty are praised while others are not, but Licht challenges her logic instead. Her son Tatsudo points out the contradiction. Intelligence is also a talent, yet Yoshida never apologizes for excelling as a researcher. He explains Tamaki's body is the result of hard training, just like any other skill. When Yoshida tries to strike him, Tatsudo blocks him and says forcing ideals on others won't fix her own frustration. Yoshida is left speechless, realizing she has no identity beyond being someone's mother, while Tatsudo declares he has become a thinking individual, not just background noise. Yoshida suddenly vanishes. Tatsudo explains her role was over and he was picked and given a name, and that made him the world builder with the ability to think. The fight resumes as Tamaki faces the fake Assault again. Tatsudo comments that mobs are only good at shouting, so Tamaki should burn through them. The real Assault appears and praises Tamaki for pushing back. He admits lust awakened something inside him and gave him hope. The fake assault argues lust should be erased or hidden, but the real assault counters that it's part of life and the future. They clash violently as their ideologies collide. Licht explains that every key figure has a role. Shinra is the hero, Sho the angel, Obi the guiding light. Tamaki's role is different. She represents life itself, desire, and the connection to the future. The Great Cataclysm feeds on despair, but lust and attraction tie humanity to tomorrow, making them a unique form of hope. The battle escalates. The fake assault claims lust is worthless, while the real assault insists it gives people purpose. Civilians begin echoing words like life, vigor, and pulse. As Maki regains consciousness, she sees people stripping and cheering, copying Tamaki. Obi and Hinawa also stand shirtless, supporting her. Maki realizes what's happening and joins in, encouraging Tamaki. The crowd's moods shift from hatred to celebration. The real assault lands a decisive blow, declaring that Tamaki's lucky lecher is not random, it's inevitable. Tamaki delivers the final attack when her lucky lecher triggers again, planting her into the fake assault's face and smashing him into the ground. The doppelganger is defeated, and the area erupts in cheers as people throw their clothes in celebration. Licht confirms Tamaki is the catalyst of this shift, the one in charge of the world's sex appeal and a source of hope. The real assault thanks Tamaki, saying lust connects humanity to the next generation, then leaves, calling her his first. Afterward, Tamaki helps Juggernaut up. Embarrassed, he remembers saying he loved her. Tamaki accepts it and agrees to go on a date, leaving him stunned with happiness. Elsewhere, Joker fights his own doppelganger and is nearly killed. Leonard Burns appears to destroy the fake Joker, revealing he retained his sense of self after Adola. They realize two powerful doppelgangers remain. Back in Asakusa, Kurono prepares for another battle when Benimaru's doppelganger appears. The fight begins immediately, and Kurono realizes this enemy can cancel ignition abilities entirely. As the doppelganger strikes him brutally, the final stage of the cataclysm looms closer. Kurono is brutally overwhelmed by Benimaru's doppelganger. A powerful chop attack slams him into the ground, and he realizes his ignition abilities are completely sealed, while the doppelganger can use its powers freely. This enemy represents the image of absolute strength that the people of Asakusa and the Empire believe in, the King of Destruction. Knowing he has no chance, Kurono surrenders and asks it to leave, but the doppelganger refuses, saying destruction cannot stop until everything is erased. Before Kurono can escape, the doppelganger appears behind him and slashes his back, stabbing and smashing him into a wall. As it prepares a finishing move, the real Benimaru appears. Kurono immediately understands that only the real Benimaru can defeat this monster. When asked if he can win, Benimaru admits he doesn't know, but he must try. The doppelganger agrees to fight, declaring whoever wins will be the true ruler of Asakusa. Company 7 watches anxiously. Some argue Benimaru cannot lose, but others realize that believing this only strengthens the doppelganger. The more people hype Benimaru as unbeatable, the stronger his copy becomes. Still, the real Benimaru steps forward calmly, stating he hates bothersome things and will settle this quickly.
The doppelganger unleashes an enormous attack, creating a massive ring of fire around the Earth, visible even to Company 8. He calls it the true Nitaren, claiming it will burn the entire planet in one final firework. Just as it seems unstoppable, Benimaru strikes, splitting the doppelganger in half instantly using only 2 fingers. The crowd erupts in cheers. The fake, shocked, realizes that Benimaru's true strength surpasses even humanity's imagination. As it vanishes, Benimaru remarks that he hopes the next copy will be closer to his real power. With Asakusa safe, Benimaru looks toward the giant eye in the sky, trusting Shinra to handle what remains. Meanwhile, Shinra and Sho fly toward the giant eye, which Sho explains is a thought-made form born from despair. As long as it exists, the cataclysm cannot end. They enter the eye and find themselves in Adola, a world shaped by humanity's despair, storms, destruction, and endless chaos reflecting human history. Sho explains that despair has always guided humanity through anger, hatred, war, and disaster. They arrive in a dark space where Shinra recognizes a familiar place once shared through their Adola link. A figure resembling Amaterasu appears, revealed to be a projection of humanity's subconscious. Haumea appears before them, restored to her original form. Sho explains that she was born a saint, but was corrupted by humanity's collective unconscious. Her crown blocked her sight, but allowed her to hear both God's voice and humanity's despair. Haumea reveals that death is the only true salvation. She then takes her crown off, saying she has seen the truth again.
She finally opens her eyes, calling out the brothers while having mercy and grief. She summons Inka and Sister Sumire, who willingly take her hand and are consumed by flames, dying peacefully. Shinra is horrified, but Haumea claims death frees people from the endless cycle of salvation and despair. Sho explains that Haumea has become a godlike vessel, absorbing all of humanity's unconscious desires. The Evangelist appears behind her, revealed to be the collective unconscious itself, the secret wish of humanity. Haumea explains that humans created God through despair, and that salvation always leads to greater fear of death, creating even more despair. This cycle inevitably leads to the Great Cataclysm. She shows Shinra the bodies of Iris and Amaterasu, claiming Iris accepted death as salvation. Enraged, Shinra attacks Haumea, but cannot harm her. She tells her rage proves her point. Sho warns Shinra not to lose himself to anger, reminding him that he is not alone anymore. Shinra is overwhelmed with rage after Iris's death. Memories of her kindness, their quiet moments together, and her gratitude flood his mind, making it hard for him to breathe. Sho urges him to calm down, reminding him that anger is the strongest trigger for despair and death. Shinra agrees, and Sho encourages him, saying Shinra is not fighting for revenge alone, but to protect humanity and their remaining allies. The brothers attack Haumea together, even using their ability to move during stopped time. However, their attacks do not reach her at all. Shocked, they retreat. Haumea explains that she did nothing. Despair simply exists, just as she does. Sho realizes that Haumea is using the abilities of the other pillars she absorbed, including Inka and Sumire. She easily throws the brothers back and asks Shinra if he would rather die in her place, since despair will come either way. Shinra continues attacking, but his kicks pass through Haumea as if she is untouchable. She claims fate itself prevents her from being harmed. Shinra refuses to accept this logic, but Sho warns him not to lose control. Haumea strikes again, sending them flying. Shinra wonders if the world will still fall into despair even if they defeat her. Sho answers that Shinra, the savior, controls the end of the cataclysm, not Haumea. Shinra declares that he will not die or give in to rage. He fights for humanity and his comrades. Still, Haumea questions whether he truly protected those closest to him. Thinking of Iris again reignites Shinra's anger. Haumea argues that rage only ends through killing the enemy, and claims Shinra became a hero through vengeance in the first place. Shinra insists he is a fire soldier, not a devil, but Haumea exposes his true instinct. Deep down, he wants to kill her. Shinra knows this is not true salvation, yet the feeling remains. Suddenly, a hole appears in Shinra's stomach. Haumea claims his death will complete the Great Cataclysm and bring salvation. Shinra collapses, worrying Sho. But then Shinra grabs Sho, revealing a snake-like flame emerging from his wound. On Earth, Captain Huang burns as she heals Shinra through an Adola link, sacrificing herself. Hibana and others watch in horror. Shinra hears their voices and regains his resolve, declaring himself a hero who fights to protect people. Shinra punches Haumea again. Though the punch passes through her, it moves her hair. Shinra realizes he can influence her, even slightly. Sho understands that this means the future is not fixed. Shinra believes even small change can overturn fate. Haumea denies this and shows him Earth, where despair is reaching its final stage. On Earth, evacuations seem complete until a doppelganger of Captain Obi appears and slits the real Obi's throat. Tamaki, Hinawa, and Maki are devastated. Shinra senses Obi's death, and Haumea declares that the light is gone. Captain Obi's death enrages Shinra, completing the cataclysm. Flames of Adola engulf the world. Company A, Joker, everyone engulfed in flames. Cities burn, people panic, and the cataclysm fully activates. Asakusa is surrounded by fire, but Benimaru urges everyone to have a drink. Since the flames are coming from the sky, there's nowhere to run, the entire planet. All they can do is trust Shinra. He turns the fear into a final celebration, drinking sake with his people and choosing to face the end together. The entire planet is consumed by flames and becomes a star, a second sun. Sho believes everything is over. Haumea claims Earth has merged with Adola and that only the three of them remain. Shinra still vows to kill her. Suddenly, a blinding light appears and Arthur strikes Shinra with Excalibur, calling him a fool and reminding him of his promise. Shinra breaks down, asking Arthur what he should do, but Arthur hits him again, telling him this is no time to whine, even as Shinra insists whining is all he can do. Arthur strikes Shinra again to snap him out of despair. telling him that no matter how hopeless the world becomes, Shinra is the one who must never give up. When Arthur asks why, Shinra answers confidently that it is because he's a hero. Satisfied, Arthur steps back, and Shinra regains his resolve. He declares that even if humanity believes despair is the answer, he will never accept it. A hero who gives up would be meaningless.
As Shinra faces Haumea again, something unexpected appears behind him, a demon-like figure he immediately recognizes as his mother, Mari Kusakabe. This triggers a flashback to their peaceful past. Shinra remembers a warm day at home, eating lunch with his mother and baby brother Sho. His mother praises him for helping around the house, and Shinra proudly promises to protect them as a hero. When a solar eclipse warning plays on the radio, Shinra decides to guard the sun himself, falling asleep while watching the sky. Later, he wakes up wearing a cape, calling himself Shinra Man, making his mother and Sho laugh. The memory ends with the family smiling together under the darkened sun. Back in the present, Sho rushes forward and hugs their mother, crying. Shinra apologizes for failing to protect them 12 years ago, but Mari asks if he gave up. Shinra says he never truly did, thanks to the people he met along the way. He talks about his friends, his comrades, and especially Arthur, someone who never gives up. Mari is happy to hear Shinra found people he could stand beside. Haumea recognizes that Shinra's hope has not vanished. She declares hope itself is a curse that turns people into devils. Shinra rejects this, saying his mother is not a devil. Haumea explains that Mari is the Evangelist's doppelganger, a stain of hope within despair. Shinra realizes this hope is what gives him strength. Haumea attacks again using the power of Amaterasu's corrupted light, blasting the brothers back. Sho stops time, but Haumea claims all they can do is delay despair forever. Shinra admits Haumea is right about one thing. Revenge brought him this far, but his true reason for fighting is to keep his promise to his family. He asks Sho and Mari to take his hand so their hearts and souls can become one. The Kusakabe family unites, creating a powerful soul resonance. Shinra, Sho, and Mari merge into a single being, Shinra Bancho Man, a form embodying heroism, angelic purity, and infernal power. Shinra declares that hope cannot be stopped and challenges despair directly. Even as black flames cover the planet, a ray of hope shines through. Haumea weeps as Shinra Bancho Man advances. She unleashes devastating attacks, calling them the light of despair, but Shinra stands unharmed, smiling. She strikes some more attacks, but he remains harmless. Shinra questions whether to give in to despair or hold on to hope. He chooses hope, obviously. He mocks despair for being boring and says life is about what feels meaningful, not fate or results. Arthur argues that humanity does not truly desire death. If they did, survival instincts would not exist. Haumea insists she only represents humanity's collective unconscious. Shinra replies that he is still human. Overcome, Haumea kneels and prays through tears, wishing she could return to being human. Her tears float into the air, forming a massive sphere as countless souls gather. Sho senses her fully merging with the Evangelist. Thunder shakes the space as Haumea transforms, revealing her true form, the Holy Woman of Despair, now bearing a third eye. The unconscious mind of humanity fully merges with the Evangelist, and Haumea becomes the Saint of Despair. She cries endlessly, her tears representing the despair of every living being born on Earth. She attacks Shinra Bancho Man with black flames, inviting him to perish with her and accept despair as salvation. When she releases her flames, Shinra destroys them and transforms them into flowers. Sho watches in awe as Shinra repeatedly changes despair into beauty. Angered, Haumea surrounds herself with black flames, but Shinra leaps toward her, turning even more flames into flowers. He stomps the ground and creates a vast flower field, shocking Haumea. She begs him to stop, saying those flames are precious to her sorrow. Shinra asks her to look around and see how beautiful the world can be. Haumea replies that such light only exists outside despair, wondering if Shinra plans to connect her to that world. Shinra remembers something from Vulcan's workshop and imagines it into existence, a massive whale rising from the water before swimming away. Sho jokes that it looks strange, and Shinra admits he cannot remember it perfectly. Haumea calls Shinra a devil who spreads sorrow and attacks him with divine light meant to destroy all living things. Shinra doesn't dodge. Instead, he catches the light with one hand, studies it, and throws it into the sky. It explodes into clouds, creating rain and an atmosphere. The flaming earth begins to return to life.
As rain falls, Shinra tells Haumea to cry it out. He explains that her tears are not meaningless, they strengthen the world. He touches the ground and forms mountains, animals, and migrating birds across the planet. From space, Arthur sees the burning star turn into a blue planet again. Haumea insists Shinra does not understand despair, and accuses him of irresponsibly using godlike power to recreate hell. She says Shinra has become a god of creation, turning imagination into reality, but without understanding humanity's pain. Sho agrees that Shinra's actions are not a true solution. Recreating the world would only force Haumea and humanity to suffer again. Shinra realizes Haumea has been drowning in endless negative thoughts every moment of her life. Despair leaks into everything, even flowers. He finally understands her burden. Haumea argues that only the strong can escape despair, while the weak collapse under it. Shinra insists he is not a god, but Sho says the power he holds belongs to one. Determined, Shinra continues forward. Haumea attacks again, but Shinra repeatedly stops and reverses time until he kicks away despair itself, accidentally creating cities and civilization. Haumea's tears finally stop. Shinra declares the Adola burst is not just destruction, but rebirth. He raises Haumea's tears into the sky and turns them back into souls. Across the world, the dead are revived. Fire Force members, civilians, enemies, animals, and even the person who was the first Infernal in Chapter 1 or Episode 1. Captain Obi awakens, reunited with Company 8. Haumea is horrified, believing history will repeat itself. Shinra admits despair will always exist, but says he changed one thing. Then the scene shifts to Hajiki losing his head, Juggernaut loses his hand, and Captain Obi's slashed neck opens up again, but none of them feel any damage or pain. Shinra explains he lowered the value of life. Death is now closer and less absolute, making despair weaker. The world feels strange and unstable, like madness, but life continues. Shinra smiles, believing this imperfect world is humanity's true chance forward. Haumea is confused by Shinra's words and hides herself behind a veil, asking if his changes will really stop her despair. Shinra calls out to her and says the choice is hers. If she doesn't like the world, he'll kick it again and reshape it. He smiles and says they can live and redo life over and over. Black flames surround them, like the cave where Amaterasu once hid. Sho worries that Haumea will keep choosing despair, but Shinra believes she won't. Karen appears and kneels before Haumea. He admits that while humanity's pain never hurt him, her pain did. He wanted to end the world quickly so her suffering would stop. His only regret was never seeing her smile. Embarrassed, Haumea slowly opens the veil, blushing. Karen gently pulls her out and carries her, overjoyed. Shinra watches quietly, believing they will not regret being reborn in this imperfect world. Haumea suddenly worries where all the despair went. A terrifying presence appears, but Shinra destroys it instantly, saying there's no place for it anymore. The black flames vanish, replaced by a strange smiling sun. Haumea realizes she's finally free to live. In Adola, the remaining pillars observe this choice. Amaterasu decides to disappear along with despair, choosing death over life. Iris protests, but Amaterasu tells her to live for both of them. Sister Sumire also chooses not to return. Iris thanks Amaterasu for her light.
Haumea's tears fall again, but this time they restore Iris and Inka to the world. Shinra is happy to see them, and Inka jokes about failing to die properly. Just as things seem settled, a terrifying skull-shaped being appears, declaring it is time for them to die. Shinra calmly explains that this being is God, one he created because humanity needed a visible god of death. The being confiscates all pillar powers, including Shinra's, Sho's, and Haumea's. Benimaru notices something has left him. Pyrokinesis disappears from the world and spontaneous human combustion ends. God announces it will leave to create its own realm, casually giving Shinra a phone number before vanishing. With their powers gone, life truly begins anew. Shinra reassures Sho, and their mother tells them she's proud. Inka jokingly claims she and Iris are Shinra's girlfriends, embarrassing him deeply. Shinra escapes the situation and reminds everyone they need to go meet the rest of Company 8. This is a new world, built on hope, with strange animals and vast lands. Shinra thanks Arthur, who watches over Earth from above, before returning home. Company 8 welcomes Shinra back as he reports that the world is safe and combustion is gone, and they instantly hug him tightly, celebrating. Shinra realizes he doesn't feel tense anymore and now can smile realistically. He says the day the boy who everyone called a devil found hope. Peace spreads across the planet. Fire Force disbands and people move forward with their lives. Obi becomes a commander of a new World Heroes Force, and powerful individuals grow even stronger through sheer will. Expeditions explore the new world now without Tokyo, but far larger than before. Tamaki and Juggernaut enjoy a peaceful date, amazed by life without fear. Ibana and Iris talk about Shinra, accepting that he now belongs to the world, not just one person. Meanwhile, Shinra joins an expedition to hunt massive creatures born from the new reality. Arthur waits ahead, smiling confidently as another battle approaches. Shinra laughs, accepting the danger. This imperfect world is alive, unpredictable, and free, and that is exactly what makes it worth protecting. Shinra, Arthur, and Ogun are surprised when a woman suddenly appears before them. She says she was worried and wanted Shinra to chase her forever. It turns out to be Inka. She asks Shinra if he has changed his mind, but he instead asks if she summoned the giant serpent. Shinra refuses to give her what she wants. Inka becomes angry and bluntly says she wants to have his babies. Shinra is shocked while Ogun reacts dramatically. Shinra insists he already has Iris, which disgusts Inka. She clarifies that she does not love him romantically, she only wants his seed. Shinra is horrified and refuses. Inka argues that Shinra, of all people, should understand her reasoning. In this new world where death is closer and less absolute, the value of life has changed. She wants to create life that will continue into the future. Shinra suggests Arthur instead, but Arthur angrily refuses. Inka admits that before, she only wanted to die, but Shinra changed the world and gave her a reason to live. Because he saved humanity, she wants to leave descendants tied to him. Shinra apologizes, but still refuses. Annoyed, Inka threatens to cause chaos again just to pressure him, though she thanks him for creating a world everyone enjoys and calls him a hero. Shinra shrugs it off, saying it was no big deal. Life in the new world moves on peacefully. Lisa and Maki laugh together in a shop. Burns and Joker coexist calmly. Sho and Nataku attend school together, with Kurono as their teacher, though they ignore him and listen to music instead. Hibachi spends time with the twins, and Haumea lives happily after marrying Charon. 25 years later, the world is stable. Special Fire Cathedral 8 still exists, and Shinra Kusakabe, now 42 years old, is the supreme commander of the World Heroes Force. He receives a message from President Obi and discusses his child's enlistment, admitting that even heroes worry when it comes to their children. Shinra reflects that living fully without regret makes death less frightening. Life should be enjoyed boldly so souls can burn bright. Meanwhile, two kids appear on the gate and stands. In the distant future, a skull-like god observes the world and wonders what kind of godchild will be born next. Images of children resembling past heroes appear, suggesting that hope continues across generations. The story is revealed to be a book read by parents to their young daughter, explaining how the world was rebuilt so it would never fall into despair again. The child listens in awe. The saga ends with the message that humanity survives despair not by escaping death, but by embracing life, hope, and the courage to move forward. Thus concludes the epic story of Fire Force. And that wraps up our deep dive into the Great Cataclysm Arc of Fire Force. What a fun ride it's been, full of epic battles, shocking twists, and emotional moments. The ending was completely unpredictable, leaving fans amazed and satisfied. Fire Force truly delivered a season packed with excitement, heart, and surprises.